Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Eberron, Season 5, Depth of Culture, Episode 3, Part 3, and that never gets old. The person that you had seen walking across the chamber is walking, as I had said, with a lot of purpose in his step. And when he finally gets to the end of the chamber, you can see that he's standing there before the person sitting on the throne, the person that you would imagine is the king. Now, Ryyk, you know that in culture of the hobgoblins, you would always pay respects to the king. It's not one of those things where you get on your knees and start kissing the ground or groveling and stuff like that. But there's always respects that must be paid to a lord or to those that are above you. Depending on the relationship, would change the respect. You don't entirely know what it would be here, but the important thing to note is that when you see this man come to his stop in front of the throne, he comes to his stop and does no additional actions other than stop. As he does that stop, literally as that last foot falls, you can all of a sudden see there's a ripple in the air around him. And that's when you realize there are other subjects in the throne as well. Other subjects that are watching the fact that he's standing there and seeing that standing there and watching before him. And when he does not react in any way, when he just stops there, there's a bit of a whisper amongst the courts that's there. Now again, a whispering court and a chattering of what's going on might be common in a human court, certainly not common in a hobgoblin court. The whole thing comes off as strange to you. When he stops and stares at the king looks down at him expectantly, but nothing happens, as I said 7 times. Several more seconds drag on, before finally he says... and again, this is in this very high Decani. Says, "You have burst your way into my throne room and come and stands before me. Why is it you have done this? What news do you bring?" And he's like, "I do not bring you news. I bring you punishment. What you have done here is a shame to the crown. What you have done here is a shame to our people." Holy shit, Scott, you forgot those words that you were supposed to remember and didn't have written down in front of you. Fuck. Eric, maybe you remember off the top of your head. There's 2 specific words in hobgoblin culture. One of them is respect to oneself, and one of them is respect to the people. Do you remember? It's like mut, like M-U-U-T, I believe, is the respect to oneself.
That's giant.
It's like Mutt and I don't know how you pronounce it.
That's giant, isn't it? Mut and Mog?
No, I don't think so. Eberron, hobgoblin, respect names. Fuck, Scott, you moron. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible person. It literally just hit me in the head that I didn't know what I was talking about. Where are you? Is A-T-C-H-A, so it's Acha and M-U-U-T.
Matt and Mog are the giant versions of that.
Acha and Moot. What?
Matt and Mog are the giant versions of that.
Gotcha. So it's Acha and Moot. So just to be 100% on this, Moot is essentially about the honor of the empire, and Acha is about the honor to oneself. You know what I mean? So he says, my apologies, taking this back a sec. He says, "I'm coming here to deliver to you your punishment, for not only do you have no Acha, you have no Moot as well." And when he says that, this angers the lord that's sitting there on the throne, and he slams his hand on the throne's armrest. And as he lifts his hand and slams it, you see what is in his hand is actually the scepter that you have come here looking for, the scepter that you want. It's in the hand of this man. And he slams it, and as he slams the scepter down, there's a loud ringing that fills through the chamber, almost like a magically enhanced ringing, perhaps an ability of the scepter itself. And he says, "How dare you come into my throne and make such accusations, and even claim to be one that comes and brings punishment for me? I cannot be someone who does not show Moot, for Moot is what others show to me. I am the emperor, and I am the one that must be worshipped." And then the one standing before the throne. "Fool, you know the task of our family. You know the responsibility that we have. Our family is to hold the scepter. Our family is to keep it safe between the passing of the throne from one to the next, not to take the scepter and to use it to be a usurper of the throne, not to be one who takes and just bangs the scepter down again and does this like loud ringing that washes over his words. It's like, silence! You will not be allowed to speak such heresy before me. And then, not being intimidated by that response, heresy. The fact that you would even tote yourself as a god before these people. And one of the people amongst the crowd says, you are a heretic, he is a god. And when that person speaks up, immediately the man standing before the throne walks in that direction, steps off where he is, walks in that direction, and in one fell swoop draws his blade, brings it to bear, and cuts down the goblin that stands before him, the hobgoblin that stands before him, and says, he is no god but a man, and a pathetic one at that. And he turns back and says, you have no moot. You are a disgrace to the throne and to all of the Dakani people. And once again, scepter is brought down to bear, and there's that loud ringing that washes through again and washes over the sound, so he can't speak. As the ringing comes to stop, he says, you can continue to try to silence my words, but you cannot silence why I'm here. And then you can actually see what he does is he pulls out as I said before, he was holding his helmet. You can see he reaches into the helmet, and he must have had it stored within it before, because he actually pulls out what seems to be some sort of a heart. And he holds the heart before him and says, do you know of what I hold? And this actually, for the first time, you see a bit of a different emotion comes over the one that sits in the throne. It's almost like an understanding in the eyes and almost like a bit of a fear. He says, so you do then. You know what this is. And he says, it is dark magics. You would never use such things. They are dark magics from a time in our past when those do not understand the rules, and the rules must be put before them. We must all bend our knee to the throne. We must all put the Dakani before ourselves, because Mut will always stand before Acha. The Dakani as a whole will always stand before the Dakani as the singular. And once again, he brings up the scepter to bear because he's being insulted, and he starts to bring it down to silence him. But as he's raising the thing up to do it, this time he's actually bringing himself to stand. So there's like more leverage in the smash down against the throne with the scepter. As he raises the thing, he says, a pound of flesh for each of you who have brought blasphemy and sins against the moot of the throne. And he crushes the heart in his hands. And as he crushes the heart, and you see like blood squirting over it and washing down his hand and forearm, that blood continues to drip and flow almost as a river. It's like drops of blood hit the ground at first, but like I said, like a river, it washes down. And it almost seems as though time slows down as the blood washes through the ground across the throne room, splashes against the walls themselves. As the blood washes over every one of you, it easily passes through you and doesn't affect you whatsoever. But it does, as it touches each and every one of the other subjects that are here, you can see that every one of them is turned to stone, is completely petrified, standing where they are. And then the blood continues to wash through the chamber, the hallway that you guys walked in beforehand, washes down and beyond. Everybody around here has been completely solidified. Everybody except for the one who crushed the heart and the one who's standing there holding the scepter across it. And so he's standing there. He never even brought the scepter fully to bear. And he's standing there and watches and says, what have you done? And responding, I have done nothing. It was you who have dishonored our people. You who have dishonored our name. We are supposed to be the ones that carry the scepter, that serve the crown when the crown is not resting upon any brow. But instead, you chose to take it for yourself. You chose to lead the people for yourself, a usurper, a betrayer. And so therefore, our name will be forever destroyed. I'm sorry, brother, but for your actions, our bloodline must be punished. And with that, the once again, the one standing on the throne with the scepter, realizing that he is now in immediate danger, raises the scepter again and starts slamming it down towards the throne. The one that's down below raises his sword and starts charging towards the throne, dropping his helm behind him, charging towards the throne as fast as he can. And he ends up throwing himself up at the throne itself, sword in front of him, and catches the king, the usurper, in the chest, sword through his chest, right as the scepter smashes into the ground, and there's that huge wave of sounds that rushes through the area, causing all of the statues that now exist inside this place to crumble and turns to dust around. You can just see the force behind it, much like Kieran using her thunder wave kind of spell next to a statue. Crumble to ground and the dust being blown all about. Again, it blows past you guys, doesn't affect you in the least bit. But the force of his scepter hitting the throne itself, you can see has an impact. The force of the blow, the sound itself, actually crumbles the person that was throwing himself forward. Sword gets through the chest, but then he's blown backwards and lies on the ground about a couple dozen feet away, in pain, kind of wincing and gasping for air. But you can tell by the wheezing and like the gurgling that he's doing, his lungs must have been punctured by the force of the blow. And the two of them lying bleeding, and one of them's just like, "We must pay for your sins so that the crown may go on." And he kind of like crumples to death there. The two that came with him before, you guys weren't really paying attention to them by the doorway because obviously your eyes were on the scene that was before him. You see that each one of them have an amulet around their neck. The amulet is glowing with a good amount of like green light coming off of it. You imagine some sort of protection or ward against whatever it was that was just done here, the magics that were done here, because they don't seem to be affected at all. Not petrified, not affected in any way. And they make their way across the throne room up to the throne of where the usurper is lying there dying. One of them grabs a scepter and tries to pull it. As the one on the throne tries to hold it back, the other raises his sword and cleaves the hand off. The hand grips to the scepter as hard as it can and does not let go at all, but they pay no mind to that. They just take the scepter with the hand still in tow, and they start to walk away. Do me a favor, Ryyk. Roll me a perception check, because you're the closest. Actually, Stalbor went up pretty close to you. You can roll me a perception check as well. Okay, who's that, Ryyk? So as they grab the scepter and start to walk away, you can start to see that the colors, black at first, then the whites after that, then the green, then the red, then the blue, are making their way back across the chamber and out, and they're starting to fade and get darker and darker and darker. Despite that fact, Ryyk, you're actually able to see that as they're fading away, maybe Stalbor's attentions get pulled elsewhere. Maybe it's because they're so dim he can't see it. Maybe it's just because of his blood isn't strong enough to have witnessed this. But even though as they're fading, as you think that this almost cinematic experience is coming to an end, you realize that one of the guards stops as they're walking out with the scepter, almost like they realize something. And then they turn back, and they start walking over partway towards the throne. There's a conversation between the two of them. Ryyk, can you roll me another perception to hear what they're saying? You actually have advantage because you knew that this was happening, so it's not a matter of just hearing whispers. You imagine you could even make your way over towards them to hear it better. Does anybody else hear like a thudding noise?
I think that was Eric.
Oh, okay.
Might be my I don't have.
It's like tapping.
I'm using my my touchpad.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All right.
So that's a really good perception. So one of them says, "Did you hear that?" I did. A whimpering. Perhaps another to kill. And then starts walking backwards. And then the other says, "No, wait. It's a boy. Is that his son?" "I think it is. Our orders were..."
Go ahead.
Those were the orders.
Ghost, see goblins.
It's the barking commands of the hobgoblin generals. So anyways,
That's what we're hearing, right?
yeah. So he says, one of them says, "Our orders were to Our orders were to allow the bloodline to die. One of them says, allow, the other one responds saying, allow to die, but not to kill. Allow to die, but not to kill. If he is innocent, we will allow the new emperor to come to that conclusion. But this does not have to be the end of the Murtalan family. And they start walking over towards the throne, and as you see, like literally as it's completely fading from view, one of the guards reaches out to grab the hand of a young child, maybe a 4 or 5 year old hobgoblin child, and then it completely washes from view.
I just sit there quietly, regarding the scene. I'm gonna step over to the throne. What is the throne still intact? Is it still there?
Oh, my apologies. So now that everything's kind of done, and you make your way over towards to see what the place actually looks like, you can see, in fact, the areas where all the dust would have settled, where these people would have been exploding to death. As you walk your way over there, you do see that there is a skeleton in fine goblin armor that is lying there dead on the ground, a few dozen feet from the throne. Now that you're close enough and you no longer have the scene that's kind of taking over your eyes. And on the throne itself, you do see the form of a figure wearing long since rotted and effectively falling. If you touch the clothes, they'd probably crumble. Robes on the throne, thrown backwards with, missing part of one of its arms and whatnot. You do see that scene there.
The scepter is gone.
To be fair, you do know that this wasn't the last king. As I said, this was a family line. This is a tunnel that took place not at the end of the Dakani Empire. And there were emperors that existed since this timeline ended. So it's not so difficult to believe that the scepter would have been taken from here and given to the next emperor. But the fact that this is where the scepter was, but where did it go from here? Where is it now? Et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the people that came and took it, they had uniform, they had amulets, knights of an order, perhaps. Perhaps that's the lead to follow, wherever they rest their swords in Droam, or did.
Perhaps I was not meant to be the leader. You saw the scene I saw.
Not that it's my place to say it all, but you can't really judge what you're meant to be based on what other people are.
There's no need to stand amongst the anymore amongst the dead. There's nothing more to see here. Let's go.
As you turn and walk back, a bit dejected, it's one of those things like you take one step, and then as you start to slide your second foot forward, away from the throne, that's when your foot accidentally kicks, just lightly, brushes against the helm that was dropped by the one soldier as he was charging forward with his sword. And you see it kind of now just wobbly spinning on the ground by your foot as you do so.
I'm going to walk over. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to regard it. Let's give it a once over.
You look at it, and you can see that the etchings on the helm, which you couldn't really see beforehand because it was tucked under his arm. The etchings on the helm, as you see them, look vaguely familiar at first. But then you spend a little bit more time regarding it because it does catch your interest. And you certainly don't need to make a roll. Because as you do see that, as you see the helm, it looks different. It looks warped because of the fact that the symbols that are engraved into the helm, that are designed into the helm itself, are around a dome piece as opposed to flat, much like seeing a globe versus seeing a map, right? But when you kind of twist it in your minds to see how it would fan out if it were on a flat surface, you realize that it is, in fact, the sigil that your family's banner still waves to this day.
I'm gonna go over to the corpse that lays away from the throne.
Mm-hmm.
The brother who came to kill,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. I'm gonna regard his armor. Is it damaged?
I mean, nicks and whatnot from various wars, you imagine, because a hobgoblin, while their quality is very high, they take honor in the damage that they take on their armor.
Yeah.
But the only true sustainable damage it took was probably from that huge explosion, because there's a bit of a dent inwards. But you think a skilled smith might be able to fix that, or certainly the correct type of magics would be able to fix something like that.
I place the helmet reverently behind, but next to the body, and I lean over and I begin to remove the armor, as I say in Goblin. A Myrtilon. If it was a Myrtilon that died with this armor on, then one should continue to carry it forward. I will bring honor back to our family's name.
One of the important things to note as you're taking the armor off of this body is, and you really didn't notice this with the helm before, but as you're removing the armor, it is very light. Like, you undo the breast piece and you lift it up, and it is incredibly light for what you would imagine a piece of breastplate would be. I mean, you don't typically wear armor, but and then you take off the rest of it. The whole thing altogether weighs not much at all when you have the entirety of the suit.
I regard the armor for a short period, and I put the smaller bits in my bag, and I strap the breastplate to my back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna look for his sword.
Yep.
Do I find it intact?
It is intact, still into the chest of the one that he had stabbed on the throne, embedded into the stone behind him.
What type of sword is it?
You make your way over and look. It is a longsword.
I look it over.
Well, a katana.
I grab it and I'm gonna give it a shake. Am I able to pry it loose?
So you look at it, the way that the sword is embedded into the stone. You take a couple moments to remark it. It's been in here for a long time. It's very finely crafted. You don't know, because you're not a metallurgy metallurgy expert.
Metallurgist.
Is it a metallurgist? That sounds wrong.
Metallurgist.
Nah,
It does sound
fancy
wrong, but it's
word.
correct.
That's why.
What was that?
It is correct.
Old school word.
Oh,
That's
okay,
why.
because I know it's metallurgy, but metallurgist sounds wrong. Anyways, so you're not a metallurgist, so you don't really know what it's comprised of or anything like that, but you do know that the way it's embedded into the stone, you're kind of afraid, like, if you try to pull it the wrong way, it might hurt it. Maybe if you better understood the stone, or maybe you could break the stone itself.
I'm gonna leave it then. I kind of give it like a shake, noticing how deeply it's embedded. I leave it and I say, I guess it was never meant to leave this room.
Well, I was going to note that you do, of course, have a dwarf with you, and they are innately very good with everything stone related.
Yeah, but a dwarf stranger.
Yeah,
sure, but just you use the tools that are about,
I would turn to his character. Well, I in this case, if it were anything less important, maybe not. But I would turn to his character and I say, what was your name again?
Awkward.
No one ever asked, but it's Dallas. And you are?
Oh yeah.
Ryyk Martellon. And I extend my hand.
Take it. Shake.
Give him a hearty shake, and I say, I know that you have little investment in this, but if you would indulge me for but a moment.
From what I've seen, you saw your house in ruin, and you want to bring honor to it. I can appreciate that.
I kind of nod, almost surprised at someone at all understanding the company I keep. They're not very.
I want to add.
They're not good with this particular stuff.
As Stalborn and Kieran were nodding along with that, I imagine they were standing side by side, like, yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, makes sense.
You guys are good friends. You're just not good with this stuff. The whole honor that house kind of thing. So I walk over. I say, I would like to take this sword if possible, but I fear that I would do more damage in prying it out than I would merit removal.
Before you respond, fighters and backgrounds, both depending on what you choose, can have multiple proficiencies. I see in your character sheet that you have bagpipes as a proficiency, which is super cool. But it's one of those things where did either of those offer more proficiencies, Ollie, or no? because usually
Never came up.
Usually I go Battle Master, and Battle Master gets like 3 more or some
Yeah,
crazy shit.
yeah.
So, okay, cool. So then what you can do before you even respond is, and you get to add a double proficiency to the check. So it's going to be a history check for you with double proficiency. So the way you're going to handle that, Dallas, I'll actually set it up for you. And we're going to hit, whereas normal is going to become expertise. So why don't you roll for me a history check, please?
Good.
Nice.
That's fucking
I think
awesome.
I think I can maybe
Nice.
like figure out a way to get this out of this stone.
No. So the reason why I was doing the history check, I'm so sorry. Before you again,
Yeah.
so with that amazing history check, we're looking down at the sword and seeing what it's comprised of. You can actually see that the sword itself is actually made out of a very unique type of metal. So it's one of those things. Again, he's no metallurgist. Dwarves are just innately good at these sort of things, metal and stone. So it's actually made out of a unique type of metal. Actually looking at it at first, you can't tell just at first glance, right? But seeing the way that a sword, this is folded steel, right? That's how these people seem to make their weapons, as far as you've been able to learn over the years. It's folded steel. That makes it stronger, but the way that this pierced into the rock itself, maybe it was enhanced by magic. No, even with magic, piercing through somebody's body and then cutting into this as deep down as it did, this metal should have fissures in it, should have cracks, should be broken, but it's not. Something leads you to believe that this type of metal is perhaps stronger than you thought. As a matter of fact, looking it over and seeing how easily it cut through the stone behind it, you come to the conclusion, this might be adamantine. Now you may respond.
So, you want to pull this sword out of the stone? Yes.
That's my intention, yes.
Well, how do you think the sword got in the stone?
I imagine through stabbery.
Yes, of course.
Cannon mode.
But have you considered that? Well, I mean, you could try it if you'd like. You could try to stab this stone with one of your swords, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's not usually good for the metal. This one pierced right through. My guess, adamantium. At least at first glance. I mean, just a casual perusal of the weaponry. Not something I have too much experience with, but I think you could probably just pull it out.
Glad we had your experience and expertise on the matter to tell him to just pull the sword out, Master Dwarf.
I would nod at that, and I would turn and I would grab the sword, and I would try to prise it from the throne.
I'm gonna reopen my spell book just in case.
Can you describe that one more time, Eric?
I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna grab the hilt of the blade. I'm gonna try to prise it out.
You're just going to try to just straight pull it?
Yep.
Okay. So you grab the thing and you start pulling. Make me a strength check.
This will go poorly. Nope.
There'll be like maybe a whisper of Elvish.
Did you just Eric that?
Hey, that was the first time in a long time I've done that.
It's the first time in a long time you throw the die. So you grab the sword and you start trying to pull it straight out. But unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's embedded in such a way that you can't quite get the angle. But the way it ends up working is you just kind of grab this thing, and instead of getting it the good angle, like if this was a lesser metal because of the poor angling that you chose to try to get this thing out, you instead end up cutting up and through the stone itself, making the gash that was in there where it was a piercing before, ends up leaving like a foot-long gash as you slide the blade out the long way. Luckily, it doesn't hurt the blade at all, but it certainly puts much more damage into the chair and the body that was stabbed with the sword.
Did say pull out, not rip out.
Very well. Just so you know, powerful souls don't like their bodies to be tampered with, and he's claimed to be a god. So we might want to leave.
I'm all right with that.
I look at them and I say, he wouldn't be able to kill a god. He wasn't a god. He was a fool.
Gods famously have been killed, Ryyk. Just ask the Silver Flame.
And with that, I would take the sword. I would pull out my katana, and I go and very respectfully lay it next to the corpse of the brother the brother who was killed far from the throne. And in its place, I will sheath the sword that I just procured.
Okay. So you take the adamantine katana with you and the lightened armor, and you guys are able to start making your way out of this chamber. From here, do you leave and start exploring other areas of this dungeon as well?
I would vote no.
Okay. So
If it looks like we would start going, there would be a long conversation of why.
I would say that if there was if they truly didn't want to investigate any further, I would not judge, and I'm thankful for how far they took me. I know that what I seek is not here, and so my interest in this place would be mostly from a kind of cursory curiosity standpoint to see what else we can find here. I imagine the majority of the loot, so to speak, we've already gotten, but there may be some other interesting pieces if we continue our search.
Ryyk, gnolls are being eradicated to the south. We can spend more days searching around, and that wastes time that we might be able to use to save an entire race of creatures that are being enlightened and may just change the face of the world. Now, the world is a whole lot bigger than just you, Ryyk, and your scepter isn't here.
You say that they're being enlightened, but you don't know the gnolls. These aren't creatures. These aren't like humans and elves. They do not learn. They're beasts. Why they've been given this mark, I can't say. I don't understand enough about the marks to say one way or the other. But let's not give them. Let's not grant them more than they are worth. These are creatures. It is unfortunate that they're being slaughtered wholesale for such a mundane reason, but you will not see me losing any sleep over the loss of their race. But I understand your point.
We should go.
I nod.
And Kieran, you should use that stone to try and call us a ship out of here.
Absolutely, assuming that we can. I don't know what they've been up to. For all we know, Rock and N are dead.
hey, but like,
Holy shit, I forgot you were there.
there's like so much stuff still in here. I don't mean things to take. I mean like, oh god, I
Well,
wish.
why don't you stay and find our ranger friend?
And Bellum is like standing at the end of the hallway saying,
Oh,
"I'm right here."
where
Oh.
have you been?
Master of stealth.
I heard a loud banging noise several times,
Ages
so I can't.
ago.
No,
Yeah,
there was a bunch of bangs.
There's a lot going that just happened. None of it important. We're leaving.
He looks past you into the throne room, sees you have armor strapped to your side, and because he's perceptive, he notices a different sword at your belt, and he is like, "Nothing important."
No. I turn to the elf and I say, "Listen, we have effectively removed the threat of this place. There may be a couple of traps, but most of the traps you would not be able to avoid anyways. If you're careful, you would probably be able to explore the rest of this place yourself, and you may even find something of use here. Not that you would understand anything you found anyways."
This was directed to the elf, correct?
Yeah.
He's like, is everybody leaving?
It would appear so.
Everybody living. And I'll kind of like wave the skeletons away a little bit.
Shoot.
And he's like, oh, okay. I was kind of hoping to get something, but maybe
You
we
can
could speak
say.
to the dead bodies. And he says, like, kind of like stepping towards them, hopefully looking back at the guy that looks kind of creepy because he's clearly a necromancer, even though he's not rotting
We've already
anymore.
done that. We already got we're leaving. We've got things to do. Fate of the world stuff. A bit above your pay grade, which is very little, I think.
Yeah, I understand that you're in a very unfortunate position, being in the doghouse, so to speak, with your clan. But you'll forgive
Look,
us if we.
Why don't you just take some of those paintings?
I mean,
It's
we
our-
could take him with us. Maybe he'll keep Rock company.
I don't trust him with the rock.
Rock.
I can handle rocks,
Our dwarf.
but I don't
Your
intend to leave
dwarf?
the island.
Other dwarf.
Our other dwarf.
Love another dwarf.
Whoa!
I
There's
do, his name's
there
Rock.
was what other dwarf?
Rock, you've met Rock.
No.
No, I did not.
Oh, he hasn't met Rock?
He hasn't met Rock. Oh, you're in
Rock's
for a round
wonderful.
of fun, assuming he's still alive.
I'm gonna be so mad at you.
Why is this dwarf that we just that I was just informed
His
of
mother
in
doesn't love him, so
mortal
he doesn't.
danger?
We're his adoptive parents now.
You have a child? Congratulations,
Not
I
really.
guess.
No, not really.
So what's his name? It's like slightly. Oh, congratulations, the two of you. Honestly, I was watching the way the two of you are about each other, and I had a feeling. I had a feeling.
That's enough. That's enough.
Wait, no, aren't you?
I just need you to not right now. This is all
No.
a lot.
You could
Really
don't.
just try
That'd
to
be great.
process.
But Slade, like, if just take some of that ancient, beautiful artwork that was left. I'm sure your house will love it.
Yeah, say you did it yourself. Get a little bit of credit.
I turned to God. I'm never gonna get your name right. What was your name again?
It's on the Twitch.
Yeah, it's on
Look at
Twitch.
the overlay.
Hold
Yep.
on.
It's also Winter. If you could do me a favor,
I can't pronounce it.
on roll 20,
Downless.
Down this.
Downless.
on roll 20, on the
Oh, I can
top
do it.
right hand corner. Yeah,
I can
just your first name, Downless.
Downless.
do that before, but there you go.
There you go. It's updated. Yeah.
Downless.
Shush,
I
shush,
know
shush,
that
shush.
your intention was to simply part ways with us after this, but in the coming,
The world.
unfortunately, yes.
I'm happy to come along. I
Excellent,
like
because we're going to be dismantling several of the houses. I hope you don't care about that.
That's really a secondary effort at this point. Our primary effort is to save the world, but we could use a capable person like yourself.
How are we saving the world?
I don't know. It was explained to me that this was world endangering.
It might be. You don't know.
We don't know yet.
Because if this is not world endangering, I would rather not really intercept between
Oh, but it is, Ryyk. It is.
than intercept
Hey,
myself.
Stalbo will like put an arm around Downless, and start walking like the way out and be like, "We have a lot to fill you in on."
We're all very suspicious people. I hope you know that.
I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship.
And so you guys go walking and making your way through and out of the cave area, carrying with you, a whole bunch of stuff that you've just kind of taken from this place. Not just the sword and the armor, but much gold and some other treasures as well that were locked up in the thing up above, the hoard up above. But also beyond that, you still have that tongue with you, and the eye that might still have some power. Things that you've never fully finished using to the completion.
Well, I'll give. Once we're out of this place for good, I will give those to. I'll give those to Ollie in case he has any use for them.
Ollie, roll me an Arcana check.
Because Stalboard probably have much more use for this kind of stuff than I would ever would. I want to wait until we actually leave because I want to make sure we don't need it to like escape.
Stalbo only dabbled in potioneering.
No. Immediately thinking of like the value that these components are and what could natural magics can be extracted from them. Potions, alchemy is certainly a way, but those gifted in the means of making magical items themselves, more permanent uses of the natural magic, certainly could do more with this if you could find the right person and convince them to do so. But, so you guys come walking out into the pale light of day, which is nice because you haven't been there in a while, carrying with you all the things that you had taken, including, of course, the tomes that you had found from the library. This is Kieran. had found the library with the in the church and the tomes that you had taken from there, but nobody has even broken the binding for it yet, trying to find out any information that you can glean from it. So you have these items. Kieran uses a stone to call out to one of her followers, or is it just a general call out?
No, I would contact the one with N in particular, assuming that one is still with him.
Remember, it's 25 words or less. Kieran, what do you say?
We're all set on the island. We're looking to head back towards the mainland. How are you?
Almost an immediate response is absolutely miserable. It's been ages since you've left. These responsibilities are difficult. I'll be heading to you immediately, waiting to reunite.
They are sick and tired of the war that we started.
You can tell by the tone and whatnot that it's Ed that responded.
Well,
I figured.
it appears that we've put ourselves in quite a position.
I just realized that the best
We
thing
started a war and then left.
that's a sending stone network of like 6 connected sending stones,
Yes.
all sounding like Kieran.
Yes.
So, Dallas, you just heard her say into a rock that looking to head to the mainland. Dallas, you know that getting out of the mainland was a very difficult task. It was kind of strange, but you were able to get out. You're not an excoriate from your family. You are not kicked out of your family. You just can't stand what they're doing, and so you chose to turn your back on them, right? Yeah. The reason why you were able to get out of the tunnels, despite all the ridiculous red tape that you didn't expect, was because you had a lot of connections that allowed you to do so. Now that they're talking about going back in, you kind of sit there thinking to yourself, are we going to be able to get back in? Maybe they kind of do need me, because my connections might be their only means of getting back into the mainlands, assuming they go through the moorholes themselves. But that's a problem for a different day. And so ends this session. So that was kind of that session kind of flowed a little weird because we were a little goofy at first and whatnot.
Yeah, it was still fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really fun because I thought we were going to get one more session with this, but this actually is the end of the depth of culture session. I was going to do one more session and expand on it a little bit more, but we actually don't have Eric with us next week because Eric has plans, and we ended up last second kind of canceling last week. So this will end actually this chapter as it exists for Depth of Culture. Next week will be the start of the next chapter for you guys getting back to the mainland and hopping back onto the main plot and everything.
I was your book publisher. I would have a serious talk with you about chapter length in this book.
You know what? Chapters can be. Did you ever read the Wayside Stories?
No, but I would have been mad about it. I think I must have read a book for school where it was like a chapter was like a page long. I'm like, I get it, but fuck you.
But Wayside
You're
Stories,
right, but fuck you.
Wayside Stories was like one of the best books I ever read, and there was a sequel to it too that actually wasn't terrible either.
They're good books. They're called potato chip chapters. You finish one very quickly, and you're like, I could read another, and then you're like, oh, I could read another. Yes, oh, I could read another.
That's it,
you've
chat.
done the book.
But Ollie, like legit, there's a
another.
chapter that doesn't. What is it? I think it's the 13th floor or the 7th floor, because each chapter is a floor of the school, and it's like a skyscraper school. And there's one chapter that doesn't exist because the floor doesn't exist in the school.
Yeah.
Oh,
13th floor.
Yeah, it's so funny. But then the sequel book, the second book, has a 13th chapter, which is like fucking weird, and it's like it's just awesome. It's just good books. Yeah.
I just wish Into the Woods was this short.
Oh, I know.
Like, if that could have been 2 sessions, that would have been fantastic.
Oh god, that was originally supposed to be 5 sessions, but then things went sideways.
oh yeah, things went sideways, says the DM.
It became 10. No, you do not have control over PCs and how they affect the world. You just open the door and let them walk.
We followed that like pretty straight.
We were following the breadcrumbs. Do
Yeah.
not pretend that we ruined the plot.
Let's not
What's that shit?
shade here. It is not necessary.
I will gladly debate that, but it's a different time. First, let's go over something important. Will Graham WBG. Who are you? How can we find you?
Well, that's Twitter, WillGraham_WBG. That's twitch.tv/WinterBearGames is the best place to find me. I'm currently working towards affiliate, any help would be appreciated.
Yeah. How many followers do you have over on Twitch?
38, I think 37, 38.
Well, you're
It's
about to
rude
get
ask
another
a
one.
lady that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I
No,
could
no,
look-
no. I'm saying because if you, it's totally one of those things. If you can head over there, and that did not work out.
38.
Why aren't you? Why are you lame? Let's go. Winter Bear. Is there anything
But be
else?
careful with what
PM?
you say because you might get banned for brigading even with good intentions.
What?
Yes.
I don't even know what the words you said just meant.
So, mosey along.
No. That's fine. Swing on over and toss a follow Winter Bear's way, and help him out. He does some streaming as well. He's a good guy. Moving on. So next up, Ollie. How can we find you?
Ollie. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at OllieRant. I'm not gonna tell you to go follow me here because I don't want to get banned.
You don't get
But-
banned for saying "come follow me."
You can get banned for trying to push people to channels for weird reasons.
You can push people to your own channel.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's
I'm careful with that.
literally what all collaborations are
I'm
ever.
just saying. It's the
They
way
do
you
have
do
some
it, Scott.
rules around it. It is.
It's the way you do it, and the way you were doing it is a little suspect.
I'm gonna stomp my feet.
I want the rules to be my way because I'm American, yeah. But I'm not American, which is why you should check me out. Because on Sundays, the reason why Will is here is because he's on my new Sunday Yarviskia show. I just accidentally dabbed and I hate it. And I knew Eric would when I said it. And also on Wednesdays, there is Ardent, which is a Stars Won't Number show. Unfortunately, that one has Scott in it.
Are you kidding me? Second best character in that show.
Second best? Are we sure about that?
Yeah, second best. Yeah.
Who's your best?
Will.
National. I know some people who I know some people who like the NPC character Anna the best of your ship.
I'm sorry. I think Anna's such like a one-dimensional character, which is fine because she's an NPC that's just meant to fill in a crew space.
I think she might have more
has
dimensions
some-
than your character,
She
actually.
has
Yeah,
some-
but that's okay.
She has some depth to her. I was gonna say Thomas is definitely my favorite
Oh,
character.
Thomas is the best.
Thomas is the best.
Yeah, he's
that is the correct canon answer.
definitely the best character in that show. I love the multi-layered person that he is. So
Anyway, that's me. You should check my stuff out because I'm always doing stuff because I'm insane.
sure. Aaron.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm here. I'm on the False Pretense Discord a lot. You can chat with me there. And that's about it.
Awesome. And Derek.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I'm on the False Pretenses Discord a lot. And you see me here on Fridays.
That was exciting. And I'm Delrick. You can just find me at delrick.com or scrolling down if you're on twitch.tv/Delrick right now and click any of those links below there. They'll bring you to all sorts of awesome... I don't think I have a link for Doxy's channel now that I'm over on there on Tuesday nights. But that's okay. You can find all that stuff on twitch.tv/, on delrick.com. Bye!